Some people said, I'm jealous of South Africans. Why would I be jealous of South Africans? He's speaking the truth. And speaking the truth make me an enemy of South Africa. Or that can be classified as being jealous of South Africa. Then I will continue to speak the truth. Welcome to Mandela Unveiled. The name is Mandela. I would not walk away from speaking the truth. I will not walk away from standing for what I believe is right. I will not walk away for doing what is human. And no one can stop me from speaking anything about Sudan. And I'll continue to speak about Sudan until the world listen and know what is happening in Sudan. So you can call me whatever names, you can write whatever comments you want in the comment section. Once I know I am speaking about Sudan, which is a good cause, I will continue to speak about Sudan. I have no reason to be jealous of South Africa. Why would I jealous South Africans? I only questioned South Africa's position to go to ICJ for Palestine and not Sudan. As a matter of fact, Sudan has over 13,000 people killed since the conflict started. Over 26,000 people have been injured. 10 million people have been displaced. Sudan currently has the highest number of people who have been displaced, both internally and externally. We have over 4 million women and girls at risk of sexual violence, and most of them currently undergoing severe sexual violence. It's just because of the policies of YouTube. If not, I would have shared a lot of videos about how women and children, girls, are being sexually harassed and molested by the RSF. Over 10,000 cholera cases with 275 associated deaths. There are over 3.5 million children suffering from acute malnutrition. So to all those who are writing abusive comments about me when I spoke out, does this look like a country that is at peace? And as a matter of fact, I still stand by what I say. What is South Africa's justification for taking Israel to the ICJ? What I see from my point of view is barely a political standpoint. That is all. It has nothing to do with humanity. Because if South Africa's case to the ICJ has something to do with humanity, then we should have looked to our own home first. South Africa has taken a double standard. South Africa is a global superpower. Though it is not at the level of the United States and the other Security Council states. But South Africa, when it comes to Africa, South Africa reigns supreme. And I made the comment that if South Africa put its foot on the ground, every country in Africa will listen. If South Africa lead the way to stop the war in Sudan, every country will listen. And I made this statement with reference to what the former president of South Africa, Thabo Mbeki, said in 2001. Thabo Mbeki said, when in October 2001, when there was a parliamentary session on the new partnership for Africa's development, NEPAD, in Cape Town, South Africa. And I quote, Thabo Mbeki said, we are agreed that we must strengthen democracy on the continent. We must entrench a human right culture. We must end existing conflicts and prevent new ones. When he made that statement in 2001, fast forward 2002, the African leaders resolved that they were going to shun external involvement in the handling of conflicts in Africa. And they will make sure that they have African solutions for African problems. This is something that was led by South Africa. African solutions for African problems. After that resolution in 2002, 2003, the Darfur conflict erupted, the Sudan conflict erupted, where over 300,000 people were killed in Sudan and millions displaced. Over 2.5 million people were displaced. The ICJ back then sent an arrest warrant for Omar al-Bashir. When this arrest warrant came, African countries were quick to defend Omar al-Bashir and dismiss the genocide charges against him and label the ICJ as anti-African. Label the ICJ that it is after African leaders. As a matter of fact, the double standard of South Africa come to play here. Omar al-Bashir visited South Africa, and South Africa refused to arrest Omar al-Bashir. When this man single-handedly oversaw the killing of 300,000 Sudanese, and he made sure that he financed the Janjaweed militia, which has now metamorphosized into the RSF, the Rapid Sudanese Force. You see, when people try to throw dust into our eyes, let us not always sit idle and just listen to them. Let us follow history. Let us read history. Let us read what has happened in life. You see, this Janjaweed militia that came to that helped Omar al-Bashir to kill over 300,000 Sudanese, that genocide, South Africa refused to arrest Omar al-Bashir. Now, where do I move from this? If we say Thabo Mbeki led this campaign, African solutions for African problems, and these statements were made primarily because they didn't want US, UK, and the EU and their allies to intervene in African affairs. Fast forward 2023, a conflict erupted again in Sudan. The world's attention was on it for a while until the Russia-Ukraine erupted, and the world's attention went back to Russia and Ukraine. These African leaders never traveled to Sudan to sympathize with them or see the situation. Instead, President Cyril Ramaphosa could travel from South Africa with the then AU president, Comoros, the president of Comoros, to visit Ukraine and Russia. What business do you have with Ukraine and Russia? These are European countries. Europeans are capable enough to solve their own problems. Let us solve our own problems back home. But Cyril Ramaphosa traveled to Sudan. Mr. Ramaphosa, if you say you are doing the ICJ case because of humanity, you travel to Russia, you travel to Ukraine. There are missiles jumping everywhere. The same missiles are being thrown in Sudan. Why haven't you been to Sudan? If it is not about politics or probably Gulf money, why haven't you been to Sudan? The question is, dear Ramaphosa, why haven't you been to Sudan? Fast forward, the Israel-Hamas conflict started, and everything, the world's attention was drawn to these conflicts. This is the time for Africans to apply the African solutions for African problems, because the world has now deserted us. This is the time for African leaders, African countries to come together and solve their problem. This is the time for South Africa to rise up as the giant that she is, take her rightful position on the continent. So if anyone tell me that I am jealous of South Africans, it's unfortunate. Yesterday I went to the station to pick a friend of mine who just arrived from South Africa. I have a lot of South African friends. My name is Mandela, named after the great Nelson Mandela. So why would I be jealous of South Africans? I have been to South Africa several times. I have a lot of South African friends, like I said. My South African friend is in the room next to me. I went to pick him up yesterday. So why would I be jealous of South Africans? Why? I am only spitting the truth, and the truth hurt is bitter, but that is the truth. I am not saying that Palestinian lives do not matter. No, every life on this earth matters a lot. But what I am saying here is, we have capable countries out there in the Arab world, and we have capable countries like South Africa that when they speak, the world listen. And in Africa, what some of us have realized as the youth is that leadership is lacking. And when South Africa takes that role, I am confident that the Sudanese war, some things will change. However, South Africa decided to take the other way and has left her home burning and is seeking something that some of us feel is not right. And I'm not saying that Palestinian lives do not matter. Every life matters. Every life. Every life matters. But I think that, and in my previous video, I said it, that these cases usually has an end. And I know South Africa will say it was a victory, but the ruling was never a victory. It was never a victory, because you took it to the ICJ as a case of genocide. ICJ is telling Israel that they must avoid genocidal acts. Does that look like a victory? Let us stop deceiving ourselves. Because in every conflict, there are a lot of interest at play. And I know South Africa has her interest when it comes to Palestine and their relationship. The same goes for Sudan. The Sudanese war has a lot of interest in the Gulf region.
While looking, Madam President, of the violation committed in Darfur, we must not lose sight of the role of external actors in fueling the hostilities and facilitating armed transfer, thus pushing further any prospect of settling this crisis. Let us be clear, foreign interference in the conflict of Sudan have to be firmly and publicly rejected.
Egypt has a big interest in the Sudanese war. As a matter of fact, Egypt has been helping. Egypt, led by Abdullah Sisi, has been helping the army of Sudan to ensure that the country does not return to democratic rule, because he knows that the existence of democratic and civilian rule in Sudan is a threat to his position in Egypt. So he has tried all forces to stabilize the country. However, this has brought divisions among them, and it has led to some of these conflicts. Arabia and the UAE also have interest in Sudan. These countries have cultivated very strong relationship with Sudan.
Thus, it's of paramount importance to clarify that the armed forces continue continue in their defensive war to fend off the attack and the multilateral aggression that has been sponsored by a number of countries, including the United Arab Emirates, that is supplying the rapid support militia with weapons through the Garas airport. And according to Article 51 of the UN Charter, the Sudan is entitled to self-defense, and we are currently cooperating with the ICC and the ICJ. The armed
in the Red Sea and the Horn of Africa. They've also signed a memorandum of understanding for vast agriculture initiatives in the new port on the Red Sea. And these agreements are between the RSF. So the UAE are supporting the RSF and funding them. Saudi Arabia, on the other hand, is also supporting the Sudanese army. And the kingdom seeks to safeguard its strategic interests in the Red Sea region for potential regional and international competitors such as Turkey, Iran, and UAE, and the Russia. You see, so Saudi Arabia's interests here include securing sea lanes, accessing natural resources, and focus on Red Sea security, which is a very strategic or principal interest of the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, MBS, which is his vision 2030. So the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia also seeks to protect its economic and financial investment as various sectors in Sudan, including agriculture and other areas, just like other countries. And there comes the almighty Russia too. So if we say the conflict in Palestine has a lot of interest and actors, like the UK, the US, Canada, and all, this conflict also has actors who are even external to Africa. And if South Africa concentrated its interest on this particular Sudanese case, I think the conflict in Sudan would be resolved by now. As a matter of fact, South Africa has concluded a major part of the Palestinian ICJ case. Now, South Africa, it's not late. You can still pursue the Sudan agenda. Sudan needs urgent help. Sudan needs urgent attention. We oftentimes say the world has forgotten about Africa. The world has forgotten about Sudan. That is because we as Africans, we are not selling Sudan enough. BBC is in Europe. CNN is in Americas. Al Jazeera is in the Middle East. What do we have to report our news in Africa? How many of our journalists will go on the ground to Sudan? It's all the BBC, Al Jazeera, CNN, WION, First Post, etc., etc. Let us wake up as a continent. South Africa, let us wake up, South Africa. South Africa is a giant. Wake up and help Sudan. Let us wake up and build Sudan. Let's stop the war. Let's stop the war because people are dying. The name is Mandela on Mandela Unveiled. Make sure to subscribe and watch more of my videos. Till I meet you next time. Adios.